Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Isabel Wong.
And I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Lau Siu-lai barred from running for LegCo by-election, with Lee Cheuk-yen her likely replacement.
Government says Lantau reclamation plan expanded by 70% to build land reserve.
And Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to visit China for the first time in office.
Lau Siu-lai, the Democratic candidate for the Legislative Council by-election next month, has been disqualified from running on the grounds that she had advocated self-determination.
The decision comes after Labour Party chairman Lee Cheuk-yen submitted his nomination this morning as the Democratic camp's replacement. Yeung reports.
Chanting "Unite as One," veteran politician Lee Cheuk-yen was accompanied by Lau Siu-lai as he arrived at a government office this morning to submit his nomination for the Legislative Council by-election next month. The Labour Party chairman said he signed up for the election as a backup plan by the Pan-Democrats in case election officials barred his party member from running. Lau had filed her papers last week to contest for the same seat she had won 2 years ago. The Registration and Electoral Office had disqualified candidates from running for LegCo in the past on the grounds that their political beliefs had violated the basic law.
We now have to execute so-called the backup plan. It's very absurd because it shows that we do not really trust this government. This government is playing dirty. They can filter out, screen out any candidate they want. And this is make the whole election very unfair.
Former political assistant Chang Ho-yen, who is backed by the pro-establishment camp, and independent candidate Frederick Fung are also bidding for the Kowloon West constituency seat vacated by Lau. The by-election was triggered after Lau was disqualified by the court for taking her oath improperly when she swore in as lawmaker. Beijing later ruled her oath-taking was unconstitutional. The government announced this evening that Lau's nomination was invalid, meaning it could now be a three-horse race. The government announced this evening that Lau's nomination was invalid, meaning it could now be a three-horse race. Yeung, HKIBC.
The government said it expanded a reclamation plan near Lantau Island by 70% after consultants proposed creating a land reserve instead of just meeting the needs.
Development Minister Wong also rejected claims of a last-minute change, saying the new plan was more than confidential and could not be reviewed any earlier, Yeung reports.
Until Wednesday, the government has presented to the public a 1,000-hectare East Lantau Metropolis reclamation plan to solve land shortage. But in Chief Executive Carrie Lam's policy address, the project has been renamed to Lantau Tomorrow Vision and now covers 1,700 hectares. Lam said yesterday she could not remember when exactly she was advised to alter the plan. It was Development Secretary Wong's turn today to answer the same question. Wong explained the original proposal floated in a consultation by the Task Force on Land Supply was based on the 2030-plus development blueprint, which could no longer adequately reflect the city's housing needs.
If you look at the estimate of 1,200 hectares of shortage, that was in 2030-plus. Now, the task force made the observation back then that it might be grossly inadequate for the reason that 2030-plus was based on the prevailing Hong Kong planning standard and guidelines, and therefore does not take into account factors such as our aspiration for more living space.
He added government planners have concluded the 1,700-hectare reclamation plan would be feasible. But the chief executive only adopted the bigger scheme late last month when land supply consultants had proposed building a land reserve for long-term needs. Asked why the task force was kept in the dark, Wong explained that any measure in the draft was classified as secret, even more sensitive than confidential. He also revealed the reclamation will be split into two phases. About 1,000 hectares will be created near Khao Yi Chau in the first phase, with some 700 hectares to follow near Hailing Chau. Phase 1 reclamation is expected to start in 2025, and residents could move in by 2032. Details of the second phase are yet to be drawn, Wong said. Sources close to the government suggested the mega project could cost at least $400 billion to $500 billion. Others believe it could go up to $1 trillion, the equivalent of the city's fiscal reserves. Wong insisted there is no official cost estimate for now, but was fully confident it will be affordable. A funding request for preliminary studies will be tabled to the Legislative Council in the first half of next year. Yeung, HKIBC.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam said lawmakers were not willing to back her plan of adjusting tunnel tolls simply because they are afraid to lose voters' support.
Well, that said, Lam has threatened to abandon the plan if it was vetoed in LegCo, while Transport Minister Frank Chan said there will never be a win-win solution. Yupina Ng reports.
If they like it, they approve it, then we have time to implement. If they don't like it, then we put them aside and move on to other things.
Take it or leave it. That's Chief Executive Carrie Lam's response to those who oppose her toll adjustment proposal for the city's 3 cross-harbour tunnels. Unveiled in her latest policy address on Wednesday, the plan followed years of debate and must be passed in time at the Legislative Council for it to take effect in 2020. But lawmakers from both sides of the spectrum have been skeptical of the proposal's effectiveness. While they decide to divert traffic from the congested cross-harbour tunnel to the underused Western Harbour crossing, the plan means motorists end up paying more at 2 of the 3 tunnels. And even after a toll reduction, Western Harbour crossing will remain the priciest.